Some rituals don't end when you escape them. They just wait for you to come back and finish what you started. I hadn't thought about Westfield Prep in 15 years, not consciously anyway. But the dreams never stopped, always the same. I'm 14 again, being dragged down the concrete steps into the basement beneath the old gymnasium. The air reeks of mildew, and something else, something copper and wrong. Hands push me forward into the darkness, and then comes the chanting. Low, rhythmic words I can never quite make out when I wake up gasping at 3 a.m., sheets soaked with sweat. My therapist called it trauma. PTSD from severe bullying, she said, the mind's way of processing what it couldn't handle at the time. She prescribed medication, breathing exercises, cognitive behavioral therapy. None of it stopped the dreams, but I learned to live with them. Moved across the country, built a career in software development, married a woman who didn't ask too many questions about why I sometimes screamed in my sleep. I became someone else, someone who'd never been held. Down in a basement while his classmates performed what they called an initiation. That's what they called it, initiation. Like it was some honor to be chosen, to be taken down to that basement by the senior students, to have things done to you that left no visible marks but carved canyons through your psyche. I never told anyone the details. Not my parents, not my therapist, not my wife. Some violations are too complete for words. Then, 2 months ago, I got the email. Westfield Prep 20-year reunion. Come reconnect with old friends. Tour our newly renovated campus, including the historic gymnasium recently restored to its original 1924 glory. I deleted it immediately. But that night, the dream was different. This time, when I reached the basement, there were candles, dozens of them, arranged in a circle on the concrete floor. And in the center, a figure in a dark robe turned to look at me. Its face was hidden in shadow, but I heard its voice clearly. You never completed the ritual. I woke up with those words echoing in my skull. For 3 weeks, I tried to ignore it. The dreams intensified. Every night, the robed figure was clearer, closer. The chanting grew louder. I could almost make out the words now, syllables that felt ancient and wrong, that made my teeth ache and my skin crawl. You never completed the ritual. My wife noticed I was deteriorating. Dark circles under my eyes. Weight loss. Jumpiness. She suggested I talk to my therapist, maybe adjust my medication, but I knew that wouldn't help. There was only one way to make it stop. I had to go back. Westfield Prep looked different in the autumn sunlight. The old brick buildings had been cleaned, the grounds landscaped. Students in crisp uniforms walked between classes, laughing, normal. Nothing like the Gothic nightmare of my memories. I'd told my wife it was a business trip. Told myself I'd just drive by. Proved to my subconscious that it was just a building. Just bricks and mortar with no power over me anymore. I found myself parking. Walking through the gates. Following muscle memory toward the old gymnasium at the far end of campus. The building had indeed been renovated. New windows, fresh paint. But it was still the same structure, the same bones. And when I walked around to the side entrance, the one the seniors had used to drag us, down to the basement, my hands started shaking. The door was unlocked. The stairwell looked exactly as I remembered. Concrete steps descending into darkness, that same damp smell rising up to meet me. Someone had installed new lighting, but only the first few bulbs worked. The deeper stairs faded into shadow. I should have left. Every rational part of my brain screamed at me to turn around, to get back in my car, to drive home and never think about this place again. But I heard it, faint rising from below, the chanting, same rhythmic syllables from my dreams, from my memories. Impossible. The school day was in full session. Students were in classes. There was no reason for anyone to be down there. But I heard it clearly, growing louder as I descended. My hand found the railing. The metal was ice cold despite the warm day outside. Hello? My voice came out thin, weak. 14 years old again. The chanting stopped. Silence rushed in to fill the void. So complete, it felt solid, suffocating. I stood on the stairs, my heart hammering, every instinct telling me to run. But my feet kept moving downward. One step, another. The basement opened up before me, exactly as I remembered. Low ceiling, exposed pipes, concrete floor stained with things I'd never wanted to identify. Empty now, or apparently so. No candles, no robed figures, no sign that anyone had been down here in years. except for the smell, a copper smell from my dreams, sharp and organic, and underneath it, incense. The same incense they'd burned during my initiation, smoke that had made my head swim and my vision blur while they know. I said it out loud, trying to anchor myself. Not real, just trauma, just memories. But my voice didn't echo. The sound was swallowed by the basement's darkness, as if something had absorbed it. Then I saw the circle. Painted on the floor in what looked like rust-stored dried blood, the same pattern from my dreams. Symbols I didn't recognize surrounding a central sigil that hurt to look at directly. My vision kept sliding off it, my brain refusing to process the geometry. And around the circle's perimeter, names. Written in that same rust-red substance, dozens of names. I recognized some of them. Boys from my class, boys who disappeared from school after their initiations. I'd always assumed they'd transferred, moved away, couldn't handle the trauma. But here were their names, inscribed in this circle like a registry, like a roll call. My sneaker scuffed against something. Looked down. A piece of chalk, fresh white, recently dropped. We've been waiting for you. The voice came from everywhere and nowhere. I spun around, but the basement was still empty. Still silent except for my ragged breathing. Who's there? He never completed the ritual. It was the voice from my dreams. Flat, emotionless, neither male nor female. You ran. You escaped before the final step, for the binding. I don't know what you're talking about, but I did. Somewhere deep in my fractured memories, I knew. The others completed it. They understood. They joined us willingly eventually. The voice seemed to move around the room, circling me. But you ran. You left the circle open. You left us incomplete. Movement in the shadows, not one figure but many. Students in old-fashioned uniforms, their faces pale and slack. Some I recognized from my class. Some looked even older uniforms from decades past. They emerged from corners that shouldn't have been deep enough to hide them, stepping into the dim light with synchronized movements, forming a circle around me, around the painted circle, around the names. Initiation, one of them said. A boy I'd known. He'd gone missing 3 months after my initiation, supposedly moved to live with relatives out of state. Initiation echoed another, then another. Their voices overlapped, building into that same chanting rhythm from my nightmares. They moved closer, forcing me backward. My heel touched the edge of the painted circle. No, I tried to sound firm, but the word came out as a whimper. I'm not 14 anymore. You can't, age is irrelevant. Tommy's mouth moved, but the voice was wrong, too old, too hollow. The circle must be completed. The ritual demands it. We've kept your place open all these years. I saw it then. A gap in the ring of names. A blank space, just large enough for my name, positioned between 2 boys I'd known. 2 boys who'd vanished within a year of their initiations. I tried to run. God, I tried. But hands grabbed me solid, real hands pulling me back into the circle. Cold fingers wrapped around my wrists, my arms holding me in place. Please, I begged, please. I have a wife. A life. I got out. I survived. No one survives, Tommy said softly, almost kindly. They only delay. The chalk was pressed into my hand. My fingers wrapped around it against my will, my arm moving toward the blank space on the floor. I fought it, every muscle straining, but the pressure was overwhelming. Write your name, the voices chanted in unison. Complete the circle. Join us. Become eternal. My hand touched the concrete. The chalk made contact, and I wrote, letter by letter. My name appeared in shaking script. I screamed, I fought, but my hand kept moving until it was done. Until my name sat there among all the others, completing the ring. The moment I finished the final letter, everything changed. The cold hands released me. The figures stepped back, and the world tilted sideways. Pain exploded through my skull, blinding. I fell to my knees, clutching my head as something tore inside my mind. Memories fragmented, reality splintered. The basement, the circle, the faces, all of it, began to dissolve and reform. Dissolve and reform. Through the agony, I heard Tommy's voice, distant now. Welcome home. Then darkness swallowed everything. When I woke up, the first thing I noticed was the softness beneath me. Not concrete. A bed. Clean sheets. Antiseptic smell. I opened my eyes to white walls. White ceiling. A window with bars. "Mr. Peterson, can you hear me?" A woman in scrubs stood beside my bed. Kind eyes, tired smile. She placed a gentle hand on my arm. Where my throat was raw, voice broken. "Where am I?" "Riverside Psychiatric Hospital. You've been here for 3 days." She consulted a chart. "You were found in the demolished gymnasium at your old school. Do you remember going there?" Demolished. The word didn't make sense. Yes, the building has been closed for 15 years. Condemned. They started tearing it down last month. Her voice was professional, but compassionate. "The construction workers found you in what used to be the basement." "You were." "Well, you were writing on the concrete floor, screaming about rituals and names." But I saw them. Tommy Weaver. The others. They were there. The nurse's expression shifted to something sadder. "Miss Peterson, there was no one else there. Just you alone in an empty basement, covered in dust, in your own blood. You've been scratching at the floor with your fingernails until they bled." "No." But even as I said it, doubt crept in. "It's a circle. The names. I completed it. Yeah, I wrote my name." The police took photos. There was no circle. No names. Just random scratches in the concrete. Old water damage. Your mind saw patterns that weren't there. She pulled out her phone, showed me images. The basement looked nothing like my memories. No symbols, no rust-red names. Just a deteriorating concrete floor with some scratches and stains from decades of neglect and water damage. "Your wife is on her way," the nurse continued. "She's been very worried. She said you've been struggling lately. Nightmares, paranoia. She thinks the stress of work has been. I'm not crazy." But the words sounded hollow even to me. "No one's saying you're crazy, Mr. Peterson, but you experienced a severe psychotic break. The trauma from your adolescence, the bullying you endured, never healed properly. Sometimes, under stress, these things resurface in unexpected ways." I turned my head to look out the barred window. Students walked across a distant campus. Westfield Prep, still standing, still functioning, no demolition, no condemned buildings. Just a school. The chanting, I whispered. I heard the chanting. Construction equipment. The workers confirmed they were using a pile driver that day. The rhythmic pounding, echoing in that enclosed space, it can sound like many things to a mind under extreme stress. Over the next weeks, they told me more. How I'd driven to the school in the middle of a manic episode. How I'd broken into a construction site, climbed into the partially demolished basement, and spent hours there alone, creating an elaborate delusion to explain my unprocessed trauma. Tommy Weaver was alive, they showed me, living in Oregon with his family. The other boys I'd named all alive, all moved on with their lives. Some successful, some struggling, but all breathing, all real, all very much not trapped in any basement ritual. The initiation had been real, that part was true. A hazing incident, severe bullying that the school had covered up, that had left psychological scars on several students. But there had been no supernatural element, no ancient ritual, no circle of names demanding completion. Just cruel teenagers doing cruel things, and minds that broke under the weight of it. My wife visited. She cried. She held my hand through the bars of the psychiatric ward's common room and told me she loved me, that we'd get through this. Her face was worn with worry and exhaustion. I wanted to believe her, wanted to believe the doctors, the nurses, the evidence they showed me. But at night, in my room in Riverside Psychiatric Hospital, I still hear it. Faint, rhythmic, echoing through the ventilation system. The chanting. The doctors say it's auditory hallucinations, a common symptom. They've adjusted my medication. They assure me it will fade with time and treatment, but I know better. I sit by my window during visiting hours, watching the world move on without me. Cars pass by. People walk their dogs. Life continues, normal and mundane, and completely indifferent to my existence. Sometimes I see him standing across the street. Tommy, watching my window, smiling. The nurses walk past and see nothing. My wife visits and sees only an empty sidewalk. But I see him. I see them all, the boys from the circle waiting because I completed the ritual. I wrote my name, And now I'm bound to them forever, not in some basement beneath a school, but here, in a place where no one will believe me, where reality and delusion are indistinguishable, where I'll spend the rest of my life trying to convince people that what happened was real. This is the ritual's true purpose, I've realized. Not to trap souls in basements, but to trap them in their own minds. To create a prison that looks like a hospital room, with bars that look like care, with chains that look like medication, the cruelest part. I don't know anymore if they're right, or I am. I don't know if the ritual was real, or if I'm truly sick. And that uncertainty, that's the real horror. That's the real trap. I sit by my window, looking out at a world I can no longer reach, and I wonder, did I complete an ancient ritual in a haunted basement, or did I finally, completely, irreversibly break? The medication makes everything hazy. The therapy sessions blur together, and through it all, I hear the chanting, soft and constant like a heartbeat. Initiation. 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 My name is written somewhere on a basement floor, or in a hospital chart, or in the fabric of my fractured mind. Either way, I'm never getting out. And every day, as I stare through my barred window at the street below, I see Tommy standing there, waiting, always waiting, for the next one to come back, for the next one to complete the circle, for the next one to learn what I learned. Some rituals don't end when they take your mind. They end when there's nothing left of you to take. Thank you for listening to my story. Remember, some rituals don't summon demons, they create them inside us.